The F-35 Lightning II is a fifth-generation multi-role fighter jet with stealth capabilities. American-built, it is operated by or has orders placed by 11 NATO nations and a further 6 partner nations. The Royal Air Force and Royal Navy operates the F-35B variant, which has a short takeoff and landing capability, enabling it to operate from HMS Queen Elizabeth and HMS Prince of Wales. It was number 617 Squadron of Dambusters fame that became the first British frontline F-35B unit when its first 4 aircraft arrived at Marham in June 2018. Number 207 Squadron, from which this aircraft comes, which is the Lightning Operational Conversion Unit, followed in July 2019. Now we should see the weapons bay open here. Internal carriage of weapons, not seen really here at RIAT since the likes of the Vulcan and the Buccaneer, which had a very similar configuration, but for them it was to cut down on the drag. For this aircraft it is to enable its stealth characteristics. And that bay able to carry 4 medium-range air-to-air missiles, or a combination of 2 of them and a pair of Paveway 4 500-pound precision-guided bombs. Although still very much in the build-up phase at RAF Marham with the F-35 Lightning II force, these aircraft nevertheless are still in constant demand. Recently, having returned from exercise Steadfast Defender, where F-35s from 617 deployed on board HMS Prince of Wales from February through to March of 2024. And the unit we haven't mentioned yet is the Royal Navy's first Lightning unit, 809 Naval Air Squadron, which reformed in December of last year. And this past week, the first mission was flown by solely 809 NAS personnel. But now we see the STOVL capabilities beginning to be demonstrated by this aeroplane, and this all courtesy of this aircraft's propulsion system. The Rolls-Royce lift system is key to the next part of the display. 29,000 shaft horsepower are transferred from the main Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine to the lift fan element via a drive shaft and clutch, and a thrust vectoring nozzle at the rear moves to provide propulsion for forward flight or lift, while the lift fan, just after the cockpit section, is used for vertical flight. Knots at 33 degrees angle of attack. A little while the pilot modulating the pitch and power inputs to keep the aircraft level at slow speed and at that high alpha. And for those of you with good eyes or long lenses, you will have seen the tail area moving very, very quickly to maintain that level and straight trajectory. All done by the fly-by-wire system on board this very advanced fighter aircraft. Now, the F-35B is going downwind. It's getting ready for a rolling vertical landing. And this type of landing is intended to be used at expeditionary sites, roads, or maybe if a runway is short or has been damaged in part, where the priority is to minimize the distance in which you bring the aircraft to a stop. The pilot will be targeting a specific flight path angle and a precise touchdown point, all based, of course, on the stopping distance that's required on the particular strip and the gross weight of the aeroplane.
And of course, we're very lucky here at Fairford to actually see this, because it's one of the few runways in the country at a public display where the aircraft can land on the runway because of its load rating.
Yes, in fact, I think as far as public air shows, as opposed to RAF Families Days and the like is concerned, of those this roll demonstration of the F-35B is appearing at, I think this is the only one where it's going to be able to land on. But that's far from the end of this display, because we're now going to see what's called in the F-35 community a trundle short takeoff. Now this is used if there's no concrete available and a short takeoff distance is required. The pilot spooling the engine up to 34% thrust, releasing the brakes, and then once the aircraft's at 60 knots, he'll select throttle to military power and rotate when the engine responds.
And then, of course, in that mode, the stick doesn't just control the flying control surfaces of the aircraft, it also controls the engine, the nozzle. So rotating the stick aft also rotates the nozzle to the downward position.
And contrast that with the Harrier, where, as we described earlier, there is a separate control for thrust vectoring.
Yes.
And all of this was part of de-risking the Stovall mode, as it were, of this aircraft's operation compared with the Harrier, which particularly in its early versions had been very challenging in that regime of flight. A lot of this work done on a Harrier, ironically. The Vark Harrier testbed, used latterly by Kinetic at Boscombe Down, which by the time it was retired was one of the oldest airworthy Harriers, if not the oldest. But it really did help de-risk the process and lead to the sort of flight control laws that are now employed on the F-35B, and not just employed on the aircraft type, but being used regularly operationally.
With a big reliance on computing, which clearly was not available back in the 60s when the Harrier was first developed.
Of course, yes. It's now, even by Harrier standards, going to get very, very noisy, because the F-35B will be coming into the hover around display center point, decelerating from around 240 knots. The pilot all the while managing that rate of deceleration and the height of the aircraft to bring it into a hover at about 180 feet. And we'll then see it turning to face us, flying sideways, hopefully, along the center line of the runway. And the air display regulations, Mark, of course, permit it to come a bit closer in the VSTOL, or Stovall in this case, regime, than most other fast jets are able to.
Yes, so normally a fast jet would never come any closer than the 230 metre line, which is about 40 or 50 metres the far side of the runway. But in this configuration, given that it is hovering, the aircraft is allowed to come to 150 metres, which is, in terms of fixed-wing aircraft, the closest that you will have seen today.
And this really, really is, if you're anywhere near it, ear defenders on or fingers in your ears job.
Yeah, it's about to get very, very noisy.
squadrons within the UK's Lightning Force are jointly manned between the RAF and the Royal Navy. And such has been the case on deployment. In 2021 there was the first carrier strike group deployment with the new carrier involving these aircraft and their first use in operations over Iraq and Syria, and they've since been flying long-range sorties as part of Britain's response to the Ukraine conflict, often integrating with Typhoons and with other assets. Coming in now for its final pass from right to left before departing home to Marham, the RAF's Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning. Beautiful wingtip vortices showing there, and remaining behind the aircraft, not dissipating for another 10 seconds or so as the aircraft flies through the very moist air just below that cloud level, all caused by the low pressure air above the wing.
Reds 8 and 9 now moving themselves left and right into 9 Arrow. Leading the team this year, we have a new team leader for 2024. That's squad leader John Bond, known as Bondy. Bondy has been in the Red Arrows for 5 years before taking a year out in 2023, before coming back as the leader this year. He's a former Typhoon pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the Tucano, where he was the Tucano display pilot in 2012. As Reds 8 and 9 now perform a rollback, taking the 9 Arrow into Fred. There are actually 11 pilots in the Red Arrows, Reds 1 through 9 displaying in front of you. Myself, Red 10, former Tornado GR4 pilot, former qualified flying instructor on the Hawk T Mark II. And of course we are commanded by Officer Commanding RAFAT Wing Commander Adam Collins, my predecessor as Red 10, a former Tornado GR4 pilot and former pilot on the F-111 while on exchange with the Royal Australian Air Force. On the 6th of June 2024, the nation celebrated, commemorated and paid tribute to all those who took part in Operation Overlord, which of course was the storming of the Normandy beaches on D-Day. And in tribute to all those that took part in the operation, and paid tribute to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. This is Spitfire. On the right of Red 1 is Red 2, squad leader Chris McCann. Chris is in his first year on the team. He was uniquely taken from training straight into an instructor role on the Tucano, after which he then joined the world famous 617 squadron, the Dam Busters, on the Tornado GR4. Chris received an Air Force Cross for his service on operations in Afghanistan. His opposite number on the left-hand side of Red 1 is Red 3, Flight Lieutenant Dustin Wales, known as Dusty. Originally from Zimbabwe, a former Typhoon pilot from 11 Squadron and instructor on 29 Squadron, as well as being a test and evaluation pilot on 41 Squadron, RAF Coningsby. Reds 4 and 5, the smoke goes off as the team roll out. November 2023 was the 20th anniversary of the final flight of one of the most iconic aircraft in aviation history. As the team roll out, there is no mistaking the majestic and iconic shape of the Concorde.
Coming left now. Holding firmly.
The wings of the Concorde now start to flex forward as Reds 8 and 9 make their way to the outermost, as all the front section starts to run alongside Red 1, with Red 6 and 7 splitting at the rear. Royal International Air Tattoo, get your cameras ready for the colourful Phoenix! of that right wing is Red 4. That's Flight Lieutenant Ollie Suckling. Second year on the team. He was Red 4 that last year. He remained as Red 4 and took up the role of Uncle Enid. Uncle Enid is a mentor role. He works alongside Red 1 in winter training to ensure that the new pilots joining the team attain and maintain the standards required of a Red Arrows pilot. All the Red Arrows must have approximately 1,000 to 1,500 fast jet hours, be assessed as above average in the air, and have one operational tour before they can even apply to join the team. All those applicants get whittled down to the final 9. Those 9 then come out with us on our spring training exercise for a week, effectively for a week-long job interview. They get a formal interview, flying test, and those 9 get whittled down to the final 3 or 2, depending on how many we're taking that year, and they become the new pilots for the new year. Reds 8 and 9 now move backwards to two distinctive rows in the formation as they come in from the right in chevron.
Right. Now. Holding there, mate.
But of course, the Red Arrows is not just about the pilots. We have a team of over 140 personnel. 120 of them are the engineers, the mechanics, the operations, the public relations, the administrators, and they are known as the Blues. So called because of the blue flying coverall that they wear. There are a number of Blues here today at our public relations centre in the RAF village. So please pop along, have a word with them, find out what they do about their jobs on the Red Arrows, and of course their RAF careers to date. You now see the formation start to break up as Reds 8 and 9 sit in trail on the rest of the formation. Coming in from the left, one of the most popular, if not the most popular manoeuvre we fly. That's why we kept it in for this year. This is the Tornado! The aboard call is made by Red 9 as Reds 8 and 9 roll around the rest of the formation. But watch for the colour change as Red 1 brings the team down the line. You may be able to see in that front section the aircraft are flying with their air brakes out. That's a small door at the base of the aircraft towards the rear. This has twofold effect. The first effect means the pilots are flying with a higher throttle setting, thereby it produces a hotter engine gas temperature, making the smoke colours burn a lot more brightly. In addition, it disturbs the airflow outside the back of the aeroplane and makes that smoke billow and fulfill a lot more fuller, and therefore in certain manoeuvres in the display will use that technique to enhance those displays. As we come to the end of the first half, you'll see Reds 8 and 9 have joined the rest of the formation, and this will be your last opportunity to get that iconic picture of our iconic Diamond 9 for 2024. In from the right, the smoke will come on. Once again, in our world famous Diamond 9, it's the 2024 Red Arrows. As we go into the second half, you'll see a manoeuvre not flown since 2003. This is the 5-4 split. As we go into the second half, the team will now break down into two sections. Off to the right you have Reds 1 through 5. They are now known as Enid, named after Enid Blyton's famous 5 from the children's books. Off to the left-hand side you have Reds 6, 7, 8 and 9, known as Hannah, named after squadron leader Ray Hannah, one of the most famous aviators in RAF history, the only team leader to lead the team for 4 years. He took the team from a 7 to a 9 and forms our trademark Diamond 9 formation. Hannah from the left, Enid from the right, for the 5-4 cross. Keep your eye on Enid to the left-hand side. The Red Arrows were formed in 1964 with our first public display in 1965. The Red Arrows were actually formed from 3 different display teams around at the time. The Red Pelicans, the Black Arrows and the Yellow Jacks. We took the red from the Red Pelicans, the arrows from the Black Arrows to give us our name, and we took the aircraft from the Yellow Jacks. In tribute to that aircraft, Enid from the right, the smoke comes on, flying the Gnat.
Motor, go.
Red Arrows continued flying the Gnat right the way up until 1980 when we took control of the Hawk T-Mark 1, which is still the aircraft that we fly today. The Hawk is actually 50 years old this year, an extremely agile and capable aeroplane, extremely fun to fly with all the pilots who have flown her, having a very special place in their heart for the Hawk. Look directly to your front now, you'll see reds 8 and 9, red and blue come on, rolling around 6 and 7. Get your cameras ready, it's the Hannah break. We have red 7 and 8 to our left-hand side, red 6 and 9 off to our right-hand side. Hannah and the Synchro pair are led by the Synchro leader, that's Flight Lieutenant Stu Roberts, red 6 to our right, smoking white. Stu is in his 3rd and final year on the team, a former Typhoon pilot with 11 and 12 Squadron RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire. Each pair will now dive down to only 100 feet above the airfield. They've got a closing speed of over 800 miles per hour in the Hannah Pass.
Threshold, threshold. Oh, good.
Reds 8 and 9 going up and down in the roller coasters, followed by red 6 and 7 staying flat. Red 6 to the left, red 7 to the right. Red 7 is squad leader Tom Hansford, 2nd year on the team. Red 3 last year, he's a former Typhoon pilot, former qualified weapons instructor on the Typhoon, as the Synchro pair turn hard for the Cyclone. As the Synchro pair lead directly to our front, look to your left-hand side and you'll see red 9 running in 100 feet, over 450 miles per hour. Red 9 is Flight Lieutenant Patrick Kershaw, known as Paddy, former Tornado pilot, former Typhoon pilot, his 3rd and final year on the team as he turns towards Enid to fly the Goose.
Power. Little bit right. Now.
Red 9 climbing high, smoking the red, white and blue as Enid join us and go off to our left-hand side. Once again, smoking our famous red, white and blue. As Enid leaves to our left-hand side, look directly to your front. You might just be able to see the Synchro pair running in with their nose lights twinkling in the distance.
Up.
Red 6 on the left, red 7 on the right. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get your cameras ready. The smoke comes on for the world famous Synchro Heart. And coming in from the high right-hand side is red 8, as red 8 spears the Heart. Red 8 is Flight Lieutenant Rich Walker, an extremely accomplished aviator, having flown both the Harrier and the Typhoon, as well as flown as a qualified flying instructor on the Hawk T-Mark 2. Let's give Red 6, 7 and 8 a massive round of applause for a wonderful Heart in the skies of RIAT. Keep your eye on red 6 and 7 once again as they dive down to the airfield. They'll have that closing speed of over 800 miles per hour. They look to pass each other wingtip to wingtip by only 30 metres. That's only 100 feet. They'll go unsighted at the very last second as they complete the manoeuvre called the opposition barrel rolls.
Threshold. Threshold. Target.
As the synchro pair complete their manoeuvre, look to your left-hand side in the distance. You've got Reds 1 through 5, joined once again by Reds 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Target. Aboard.
Once again, Red 9 calls the aboard as Reds 8 and 9 roll around the smoke in corkscrew. I spoke earlier about the blues. Inside those blues there are 11 individuals who get to fly in the back of our aircraft in between displays when we cannot take the full engineering complement. They are known as Circus. One individual with me as every show is Circus 10. That's Corporal Phil Dye. He's out front filming the show for safety and debriefing purposes. He's also responsible for taking all the images and videos from the back of my aeroplane when we fly around the display, capturing those iconic pictures all across social media. Red 6 from the left, Red 7 from the right. Once again, a closing speed of over 800 miles per hour. Each aircraft will conduct a 360-degree aileron roll before turning hard away from each other. The smoke colour change comes on. Each aircraft now pulling up to 5 to 6 G, which means everything about them is weighing 5 to 6 times heavier. Red 6 now off to the left, Red 7 off to the right, completing a manoeuvre called the carousel. Look to your front right over the BAE Systems hangar once again, and Enid running back in with the smoke in white. Red 1 pulls them up. He puts the colour on and he flies a barrel roll, leaving a snake-like smoke trail in the sky for the first part of the manoeuvre we like to call the Serpent. And you can really see that red, white and blue popping off against the grey skies. That red, white and blue is only capable due to the smoke pod on the aeroplane. That's a small tank under the belly of the aircraft. The smoke pod is capable of producing approximately 5 minutes of white smoke, 1 minute of blue smoke and 1 minute of red smoke, with all of the colours having their own individual button on the pilot's control column. During winter training, Red 1 and Red 6 come up with the smoke plan to ensure that we have the right colour smoke at the right time in the display and we simply do not run out. Reds 2, 3, 4 and 5 now moved up alongside Red 1, looking 90 degrees along their shoulder line while pulling 3 to 4 G. The smoke comes on to complete the coils of the Serpent. As Enid leaves to the front left 45, look directly all the way to the left hand side and you can see Red 6, 7, 8 and 9 running back in. 6 rolls in. Easing up as Red 6 starts to push up to negative 3G and conduct an inverted barrel roll. Red 6 working hard against that negative G, all the blood rushing to his head as Red 6, 7, 8 and 9 hold on in a barrel roll to complete the mirror roll. With the mirror roll finished by Reds 8 and 9 performing a rollback. Hannah leaving to your right hand side, look all the way to your left hand side. Once again you've got Enid running in, that's Reds 1 through 5 in line abreast formation. 2 and 3, roll goes to commanders. Reds 2 and 3, roll to the outside. Clear goes. Reds 4 and 5, roll to the outside. In one of the hardest manoeuvres of new pilots each year have to master, this is rollbacks.
Clear. Go.
As Enid leaves to your right, look directly to your front, and once again you've got Hannah, that's red 6, 7, 8 and 9 running back in. As mentioned earlier, 2024 celebrates 60 display seasons, our 60th anniversary. Keep your eye on red 8 and 9, slightly uppermost from red 6 and 7. Red 8 smoking blue, red 9 smoking red. As they join a wonderful 60 in the sky to celebrate 60 display seasons for the Red Arrows. Keep an eye on red 6 and 7 braking underneath the 60. They'll pull up for their final manoeuvre of the show. They'll dive down to once again, only 100 feet above the airfield. They'll have that closing speed of over 800 miles per hour. Get your cameras ready for the colourful and dynamic synchro double rolls.
Okay.
As the synchro pair leave to our rear, look directly to your front. You can see Enid and 8 and 9 running back in for the Vixen break. Royal International Air Tattoo, it's been an honour and a pleasure. Please put your hands together for the 2024 Red Arrows! Red 1 puts his smoke on. He'll gather the rest of the formation, take them out to about 10 miles final for their run-in and break to land back here at RAF Fairford. If you'd like any more information about the Red Arrows, of course we are on Instagram and Facebook, RAF Red Arrows. All the pilots have their own Instagram account. Find me at RAF Red 10 and you'll find the rest of the pilots. Any videos, images you've got today, share them, hashtag Red Arrows, we'll pick them up and share them across social media. The Red Arrows pilots will be at the RAF PR tent, the Red Arrows PR tent, which is in the RAF village from about 4 o'clock this afternoon. All 11 pilots will be there, so please pop along, come and grab some pictures and posters and we will all sign them for you. But on behalf of the Royal Air Force and the Red Arrows, I'd like to thank you for looking after us and giving our support, your support, over the entire weekend of the Royal International Air Tattoo. Please have a wonderful rest of the day. Make sure you have plenty of fluids, take lots of sun cream, and I hope to see you all again in the future. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Muskie. Thank you.